All right, so this is part 4 of the series, HVAC full replacement. And in this part, we're going to go through a comprehensive list of everything that went into getting this project done. So I'm going to try to keep it as brief and to the point as possible. And this is what we're going to go through. So the first part, I'm going to address the do-it-yourself DIY option. Then we're going to go through getting bids, then the contract, then payment, then code inspection, and then follow-up. So we're going to go through each of these. Again, I'm going to try to be as brief and concise as I can. If you want to see some before or after videos and some more general information, go check out parts 1 through 3 of this series, and you'll see installation day, the befores, the afters, and that kind of thing, and some handy tips. But this is more comprehensive, going through the whole project. So let's start off with the DIY option. So this is something I actually considered very seriously. I did a lot of research on doing it myself. I figured some things were up to my skill level, and that's something you have to choose for yourself, what your skill level is for each of these. So we had AC, hot water heater, and furnace. Each of those presents different challenges and very different skill levels. And even the contractor, they had different people doing different things. So to do all those yourself, I would say you've got to be pretty high level in terms of your skill and your willingness to tackle the unexpected. So here's some things that I went through when I was trying to decide whether I wanted to do it. So the biggest thing for me was the value of my home. And so taking into account resale value and that kind of thing, if I were coming into a house and I saw that their entire HVAC system was a DIY project, how would I feel about that? And I've got to be honest, that would be a red flag for me. I'd be very worried about an entire HVAC system done by the homeowner, unless they had some crazy skills to do it. So that was a big issue for me. And also liability. You're dealing with civil liability if you do something wrong, carbon monoxide, a gas leak and an explosion, just all kinds of things you have to worry about. Warranties too. Some companies won't warranty DIY projects the same way they do for if it's a contractor installed project. So those were the biggest things. And then also things like this, you have to have no heat. You have to shut off the water. You have to have the correct tools. You have to know how to dispose of certain things, refrigerant, all these different issues. And so by the time you go through all these issues, potentially not having hot water for an extended period of time, if you come up with something that's above your skill level, and then you'll have to call a contractor anyway. If it were something where I didn't have to touch the heat or the hot water or anything like that, then if I come up to something unexpected, it's not as big a deal. My family, I've got 3 young kids. They're not going to have to go without hot water, etc. So the DIY option, if you are up to that kind of a task in terms of skill, and it's not just about the straightforward stuff, it's about what you find as you go, and I'll address that later also. If you're up to that, it is possible to do it yourself. But I think after paying for the tools you need, dealing with liability, home resale value, safety, just all the things I just mentioned, I don't think it's worth it. And so I chose to pay experts to come in and do that, guarantee the work, have the warranty, etc. So that's the DIY option. I know a lot of people want to save money. I wanted to save money. I just think in the long run, it's worth it to have it done the correct way, have a code inspector come out and verify everything is up to code, and you're done with it. So that's my take on DIY. So the next one is getting the bids. So you've decided that you need a new water heater. a new furnace, a new AC, maybe all three, maybe just one, but you decided that. And now you're looking to get some bids, choose contractors, etc. And this, for a lot of people, this is the most stressful portion. And for me, it was the most stressful because you're trying to find someone trustworthy. You know that they know more than you about prices and how things work. So you're kind of, you're in the dark and they know all the answers. And that's part of the reason why I'm doing this whole series, is to help homeowners to figure these things out. So the bids, where I started is I started with different manufacturers. So I got a kind of list of manufacturers of the hardware, i.e. the furnace, the water heater, etc. And then I chose different contractors who dealt with different brands. So I picked like top 3 brands. Then I picked contractors who dealt in those top 3 brands, and I compared their bids. And then once I narrowed it down in terms of the prices that I was getting and the brands that I liked best, and then I narrowed it to one brand that I wanted, then I had apples to apples bids. So a dealer with Trane bidding against another dealer with Trane. So same products. It's not like you're going with Rheem and bidding against Trane, because the prices are going to be different and it's hard to have them bid against each other. So that's one of the things I would say is choose the brands you're interested in, pick the contractors who deal in those brands. After you get the prices and get an idea of where people stand and how you feel about them, then you narrow down the brand and have the same brand dealers bid against each other. So here's the big things that I watched when I had people come bid. So the first thing is responsiveness. Are they on time? Do they care about your house when they come in? Do they put booties on, or do they just their general demeanor, right? So how they interact with you from the beginning, how they interact with you when they get there. And a huge thing for me is when you're talking to someone, are they distracted? I had one guy who took probably more than 5 phone calls while he was here, and he was polite and he was apologetic, but that was huge for me because it's almost like he's too busy. You're not important. He's got all these different things going on, and that's going to be something that comes back usually later on when you're doing a project. If he's overwhelmed and he's not able to give you the attention that your project needs in the beginning, he's not going to do that in the middle, and he's certainly not going to do that when it's over and they get paid. So that one person who came in bid, he was knowledgeable and he said a lot of the same things the other contractors did. And that's another thing, is make sure you get consistent comments about your system from all the contractors to know that they're telling you the truth. But he was just too distracted, too unorganized, and I didn't have a good feeling of trust in that particular person. The next bid that we had was, I liked the guy. He was attentive, and the prices were just too much. And I will show you the contract from this particular company. I'm just going to pull that up so I can see it. And so if you look, nothing is different in terms of what they're listing here and what they're going to do. I found that to be pretty consistent over all the different contractors, but their price was way higher. So you can see the price, $22,758, was a lot higher than all the other contractors. And they weren't really offering anything extra. It was just a high price with, I'm not sure what else justified that high price. So yeah, that one, the guy didn't do anything wrong. He wasn't exceptional, but he didn't do anything wrong. And his price was just way above, as you can see. everybody else. And you see the list of things that they're listing to do. That's just normal things that any contractor is going to do. So no big surprise there. Then, and that person was dealing with a different brand than I wanted also. So that wasn't the top brand I was looking at, and it was the most expensive. So the first guy, too many phone calls, just didn't get a good feeling. The other guy, the second guy, way too expensive, wasn't offering anything extra really. And those first two dealers weren't dealing with the brands that I really wanted. Train is what my top choice was, barring anything that I didn't know or anything I learned during the bidding process. So then the next bid was Emporia Home Services, and that's not the one I'm showing now, but the next bid was Emporia Home Services, and their bid was lower than that highest bid, but it was significantly less. So what did I like about Emporia Home Services? So the gentleman who came to the house, number one, very easygoing, no hard sales tactics. Put some shoe covers on when he came in. He actually used software to calculate what the needs of the house were in terms of heating and cooling. He didn't just kind of eyeball it and guess. One thing he did that no one else did is he actually had a carbon monoxide detector. And just out of safety, we checked the vents and just to see if there was a carbon monoxide issue. Now, I have a carbon monoxide detector, but it's that kind of attention to detail combined with no hard sales tactics, just very transparent, had a list of things that they would do. It was all itemized. And again, no hard selling. He just showed me this is what it is. This is what we sell. This is what I think your house needs. Here are some options for upgrades, downgrades, but also gave me cost-effective ways to not get the top of the line, not get the bottom, and just stay where I needed to be. So that was who I went with, Emporia Home Services, but I did not go with them right away. So I had a great feeling about them right off the bat. Liked the guy who came and explained everything to me. So the one that you're looking at now is apples to apples. They are a Train dealer also. And you can see they did great. There was nothing glaring about this company that made me shy away. Gave me an itemized list, very transparent about the costs. Now the costs you see here, that's the AC and furnace, and then over here is the hot water heater. And this was their first visit, their first bid. One thing I did, it's a small thing, but I didn't really like it very much. I don't like that they separated the numbers out instead of giving me a total. I like to see just a total, what's the out the door cost, including taxes. And that's what Emporia Home Services did. They just showed me, here's what you would write your check for, including taxes. So this was broken down separately, and they didn't include taxes or anything like that. So this was also above Emporia Home Services bid. So what I did was I called them back and I said, I think I'm going to go with this other company. They gave me a better price, et cetera, et cetera. And one of the managers called me from this company and gave me a lower bid because they're competing. Now, one thing I will say is that Emporia Home Services is a private local company, and this company, as a lot of companies are now, has been bought out by private equity. So they're owned by a larger entity. That is something I pay attention to. It's not an automatic, if they're owned by private equity, it's bad. But if they're owned by private equity and they're not as attentive, not as customer service oriented, and you just kind of feel more like a number versus the treatment you get with a smaller company, pay attention to that. Pay attention to how you want to be treated and whether you're just a number going through their process it does make a difference. And I felt that a little bit with Emporia Home Services. It was much more personal, much more like it's a family-owned business, it's a local business, versus the other one. I could tell, and I appreciated them trying to get my business, but I could tell it was much more corporate. We want to get you kind of thing. So for me, that's just a little bit of a warning sign. I prefer to go with something local, family-owned, etc. So they came back with actually a really good bid. It was very tempting. But I had such a good feeling about Emporia that I went back to them and I said, hey, look, this other company has lowered their price significantly. They're throwing in some extra things on top of it, even with the lower price. Can you match it? And that's another thing, is make sure you get a company who will price match with other companies. That's very important, because then you can get them to bid against each other a little bit. And there's nothing wrong with that. You're just getting the best price you can, and they want to get the best price they can. So Emporia came right back and matched their offer and even beat it, and threw in some upgrades that the other company wasn't going to do, and just had a better contract. And so that's why I eventually went with Emporia, because, again, the entire bidding process, first you start with the brands you're willing to consider. You get the contractors for those brands in. You narrow down prices. You narrow down brand. Once you have the brand you want, you have apples to apples bids with the same brand dealer. You get the lowest price that you can get with the person you trust the most. So again, attention to detail, small company that actually cares about building a relationship with you instead of just being a number. Weren't distracted, price matched. They weren't the cheapest that I could get by any means, but the combination of all those things is why I went with them. And so far, knock wood, it has paid off. So we've gone through do-it-yourself, we've gone through bids, and now we will go to the contract. So as you can see in this contract, this isn't the final contract for this company, but just as an example, the contract should not be all handwritten. I've had people do all handwritten contracts and want you to initial or something like that. It should be detailed. It should be professional. It should list everything that's done. It should list any kind of upgrades, what's included, how you will pay, if tax is included, what discounts are there, etc. And then what you want to see is not a kind of breakdown like this. At least what I want to see. What I want to see is down here is like total investment. Here's what you're going to pay out the door. It doesn't matter if they come into your house and they find an entire piping system that needs to be done. Once they bid and they tell you, you need to write a check for this when we're done and it passes code, that's what you write. And whatever they find while they're doing the job, they have to take care of that, because you've already negotiated the price. You've said what's included. There are no extras. The project is the project. So I can't stress that enough. All right, so that's the contract. And then payment. One thing a lot of places are doing now is you can get a discount. So I got a 2% discount on the total for paying in cash versus credit card. So that's one thing. It does help. It's significant. And then another thing, too, that some people don't think about is this is a significant outlay of cash. If they have something like 0% financing and you can put the money into an investment, you could buy a treasury bond, you could buy a stock that you like. Now, again, there's risks in doing this kind of thing, but if you're doing a 0% interest payment and they have that option, you can actually lower the total cost by getting interest on your money or your investment during that 0% period, as long as you know you can get the money out and pay it before that period ends and you don't get dinged with retroactive interest on the loan. So if you get 5% on your money for 12 months, that's another 5% discount, right, on that payment. So just something to think about there with the payment issue. And then code inspector and warranties. So the first time the code inspector came out, he did find a couple minor things, but Emporia came right out, within just over the weekend. They came out on the next Monday and fixed everything. So again, things you're watching during the bidding process, responsiveness, attention to detail, those kind of things, that should stay with you through the process, and you should kind of confirm, right, I made the right decision, they're still being responsive, they're doing the right thing. And that's the case for me with Emporia. Is they owned up to it. They didn't make a mistake. It's just what the code inspector wanted to get things perfect. They came right out and fixed it. So also, don't forget to warranty your equipment. So go to the websites, put in your serial numbers, get a copy of the warranty, save all that stuff, follow up with the company about labor costs, warranty service, and that's all part of this last section, which is the follow-up. So in my case, follow-up is, how do they treat you after you pay, right? So I paid. The project is basically done now. Are they following up with you to see if everything is okay? Do they have maintenance plans? Not a hard sell kind of maintenance plan where they're trying to just fleece you for money, but where they're following up. They're taking care of you. They're showing you how to deal with the equipment. All those kind of things are super important. And then the other thing too is, even in my project, and I'm going to do a whole separate video on this as a follow-up to this, they did find that my water pressure in the house is too high from the main line from the city. And so the pressure relief valve, which regulates the pressure from the city of the water that comes into your house, that valve has failed at my house. So my water pressure is way too high, and that could cause issues with all this new hardware that I put in and my existing plumbing. So they found another issue. That's not part of their project, but they found it because they were being very detail-oriented. And that could actually destroy over time, it could destroy the hot water heater and some other things too. So anyway, they found that issue. So I have to have some of that replaced. I have to have that valve replaced, and probably some of the shutoff valves for my sprinkler system and house main water shutoff, because they found some issues there. And I already knew some of those issues existed, but I didn't know about the pressure. And so that's another thing that you're paying for. And another thing that's important about your gut reaction when you get these bids from these companies is attention to detail. They found this. The plumber, who I really like, has already given me a price and some options on what I can do to fix that stuff. He's not trying to hard sell me. He's just like, hey, this is something that needs to be done. Here's what it entails, etc. So, like I said, I'm going to do a video on that as well. So those are all follow-up issues. Do they follow up their work? Do they tell you what they found? Are they taking care of you overall as a customer? And that's what I've felt up to this point with Emporia Home Services, is that my feeling about the other companies was there was kind of a scale of like distracted, too expensive, not attentive to details. One was a little bit more or a little bit less transparent than the others and just didn't give me as good a trusting feeling. And so I went with this company, and so far it's worked out. So from start to finish, just in review, DIY issue, bids, contracts, payment, code and warranties, and follow-up. So if you're a homeowner and you're tackling these issues, this is kind of what you want to look for. Again, everybody's situation is different, and I'm not an expert. I'm just an average guy, homeowner, working my way through it, but I figured I'd put this video out so that if anybody else is totally lost and intimidated, just like I was in the beginning, this is a little bit of a blueprint, a starting point of what you're going to go through. So hopefully that's helpful. Hopefully I wasn't too verbose and took too much of your time, but I did want to at least have a video that was comprehensive out there. You can skip around to different sections and take what you want from it. And if I forgot anything, I'll do another part. I'm definitely going to do something on the valve replacement because that's another thing that I see online. People are curious about whether they can do it themselves, how much it costs, what does it entail, and then anything else I think about following up with the HVAC, I will put up. And then I have also windows and roof and gutters and possibly a couple other things. So I appreciate you sticking with me. If you can like and subscribe, that would be wonderful if you're still listening. And I will see you on the next one.